You might get
Okay,
yanked.
I try not to whip this thing too hard. It's really because I'm a very simple person, and all my memory is in my spinal column. Okay, so I want to see hands up here, people who actually have any idea of what WikiLeaks is. All right. No, so that means you've actually looked at the website for something else other than this video that hit the news so intensely here in the United States. Okay, so that's not bad. So my background is of an activist and journalist and computer programmer and cryptographer specializing in how to design cryptographic systems to protect human rights workers. And a few years ago, me and other people involved in that arena started to understand that most political reform that wouldn't have otherwise have happened anyway as part of a natural development or a natural flow of economy happened because something that was embargoed, something that was constrained or hidden from the public intentionally, was released. And if you imagine a small switch occurring, a small switch between information being withheld that would cause political reform and causing political reform, that small switch only requires a very small amount of energy. So you can achieve a big effect with a small amount of energy. And if we could scale this up, so we weren't just dealing with this on individual cases of particular journalists, then we could achieve a lot of political reform with a small amount of energy, i.e. the amount of capital we had available. So over the past few years, we have worked extremely hard to do that. And that has involved setting up systems to pull in as much repressed material as is possible. And to do that, we've designed a system, a multi-jurisdictional system, that routes material around the world in encrypted form through jurisdictions which have the best source protection laws in the world. So through Sweden and Belgium. And both of those have very strong protections, not only for our equipment that is held there, but also for, we have used these successfully in practice to attack other jurisdictions that are trying to investigate our sources. So I'll just give a very quick example of that. In South Africa last year, beginning of the year, the South African Competition Commission produced a 590-page report into cartel behaviour of South African banks. Just before they're about to release it, the South African banks strong-armed them into redacting all the important parts under the basis that some of the information that they gave, well, we decided that's confidential after all. It's sort of like a post facto off the record. And we then released the full version of that report. By the way, the redacted version got no press at all. We released the full version of that report, and they went after our sources in South Africa. They didn't identify them, but a criminal investigator was appointed at a high level of South African government. And then we said, well, you run the risk in this investigation of violating laws in Sweden and Belgium if you're looking at any sort of communications content occurring between our source and those servers, and there's a natural assumption that if they transmit it on the internet, it would have gone that way. So be careful, because you may be criminally prosecuted. And so they dropped the investigation as a result. So that's an example of which there are a number where by carefully choosing laws in one jurisdiction, you can have an extra-jurisdictional effect. This is the reverse of libel tourism. And so that understanding is one of the things that we advised for the IMMI, to try and get these strong source protections that could be used to push protections from one jurisdiction across the world, to try and get the best legislation from different parts of the world and give it to every part of the world. So that sort of dedication to protecting sources is something that our sources have seen. And I suppose from an institutional viewpoint, we lionize the source, and sources know it. We do not claim to represent the mainstream. We do not claim even to have readers as our number one loyalty. Rather, we claim to have sources as our number one loyalty. And that has resulted in this huge collection of source information. This thing wasn't working at this huge collection of that has resulted in this huge collection of source information.
You're good, don't worry.
I'm good?
She's a sound person.
Okay.
We'll let you know.
This huge collection of source information, of which you have seen some that has come forward to the public. As an example, this video that was very famous in the past 2 weeks is one of that. But we have a lot more like that. And as a small organization with only 5 full-time people, 800 volunteers and 10,000 people on our extended network, we've been able to do a hell of a lot. We have changed 2 governments, taken the scalp of a prime minister, taken the scalp of a defense minister, and many other reforms. You may be familiar with the Swiss bank case we have had in San Francisco in February 2008, where Bank Julius Baer, the largest private Swiss bank, tried to sue us and take down our domain. Through the support of 11 major press organizations and ACLU, EFF, RalphNaderCitizen.org, and SPJ, and Lucy Danglish, we managed to pull together a coalition in 10 days, which turned that over, cost that bank over $300 million in lost profits from its IPO, and 6 months later the CEO committed suicide. The lawyers who attacked us, I don't know anyone here who was at this panel yesterday, this moving panel with John and Diana Priest on it. Those bastards that went after John were the bastards that went after us, and we crushed them like a bug. Lavely and Singer. So we have developed an organization that from the ground up is multinational, from the ground up spreads assets over the world like multinationals do to avoid tax, like multinationals do to avoid asset seizure. We have done this because we believe seriously in what we do. So we built our organization from the ground up to make it unsuable in practice.
And with that, we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay. I like somebody who's unsuable. I want to be that way when I grow up.